Jim A10 Miller versus Eric the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez, man. Now listen, it's a shame no headshot from my man Eric Gonzalez, but this dude is a little decorated out there in Combate Global, Combate America, the Copa, all of that, the tournaments held there in Combate Global. But this is just interesting to me off the jump, AJ. My question is like, okay, Jim Miller, he is at the stage of his career where the UFC says now we have to fight all the young guns, man. This is where we've come to at this point. He's coming off of 2 losses to Vince Pichel and Joe Selecki, and now he has to fight a UFC debutant in Eric Gonzalez. Now, even though Eric Gonzalez has 19 fights in his MMA career, this is his UFC debut, man. Tell me, before we break down this matchup, what this means about the trajectory of where Jim Miller can go in his career at this point. Like, this is the beginning of the end, basically, right? This is like the Andrei Arlovsky approach, right?
Yeah, it really is the beginning of the end. But like Andrei Arlovsky, I'm glad you made that correlation between the two, because like Andrei Arlovsky, he keeps getting these dubs. Yeah. He solidifies himself as that guy, as that gatekeeper that's going to keep introducing the young guns. And some can take this as a one of those fights where, like, all right, the UFC matchmakers, that you did us a favor in fighting these 2 dudes. We're going to throw you one. But I don't really see it that way in this one, man. Eric Gonzalez, he is very well decorated in Combate Global, like you said, Combate America, all that area, man. He's doing really well, and he's KOing people a lot of the time. It's just hard when it's your debut. The lights are big against a big star like Jim Miller. And the whole time Eric Gonzalez was calling people out. He was calling out Donald Cerrone. He was calling out all these people. And he got Jim Miller. He got a hell of a fight ahead of him. It's going to be interesting, especially Gonzalez on 10 days short notice fight. 10 days to get UFC ready. It's a pretty tall task going forward, man.
AJ, sometimes the proverb of be careful what you wish for is something that we need to take into account here. Jim Miller is one of the most experienced fighters in the UFC. I believe that he is up there for most fights in the UFC. He's up there with Cowboy Cerrone. I mean, the man has, 32 and 16? I think that's like 50. My math is terrible, but we up there near 50, right? Something like that. Listen, Jim Miller, he's a southpaw, 5'8", 71-inch reach. And if we're talking about Eric Gonzalez, orthodox, 5'11", 75-inch reach, right? So the height's going to be there for Eric Gonzalez. But one of the things that he's best known for is his wrestling. Now, do you want to be best known for your wrestling and implement that against one of the best wrestlers in the UFC, in Jim Miller? Maybe not. Even when we saw against, I believe, Joe Selecki, man, Jim Miller. I mean, Joe Selecki is a very, very decorated grappler. Jim Miller was able to hold top control on him for quite some time. He lost the fight via unanimous decision, excuse me. But it still goes to show the wrestling chops are legit on Jim Miller, man. Now, the question becomes the stand-up, which is where I think Eric Gonzalez will have his most success. The man, I've been talking about will and heart and being able to walk through the fire. There's few people that encompass that better than Eric the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez, AJ. Have you watched a couple of these fights, specifically against Walk Sick Park? Man, he had a banger against him where he's just walking forward, man. He's getting hurt. He's keep walking forward. He won that fight via TKO round 2, man. It was one of the highlight reel knockouts for Eric Gonzalez, which was like totally cool and all that. But at the same time, man, UFC, you'd see much better knockouts in the UFC than you do right there in the Combate Globals. What do you think about this fight, AJ?
Yeah, no, I was watching a couple of his fights, and I really like him, again, like you said, for that grit and determination. Yeah. I also watched the Rafa Gonzalez.
Rafa Garcia.
Thank you. I knew it was anyway, against the Rafa fight. He was looking really good, and he continued to get taken down, but he continued to stand right back up and start swinging and banging. I like the guy for that, man. The Ghost Pepper is a good nickname for him. He's spicy. He'll stay in the fight. He's going to let you know he's there. He might not hurt you the most, but he's going to let you know he's there. A good chin. He's willing to go to war. Comfortable on the ground, but, I mean, there's levels on this one, man. One of the things about Jim Miller, he gets you on the ground, that submission can go up in a split second. Next thing you know, you're sleeping. If it hits the ground, I got Jim Miller as a favorite on this one. And, man, it's like I said, it's just it's a tough notice when you're taking a 10-day notice, short notice fight for UFC and the biggest promotion. Even though you're working, I forget how many years he's been fighting, but 19 fights out there. Is that right? Yeah, 19 fights. Yep. It's a long time. It's a long time being on the regional scene. He has a lot behind him. But just against this caliber of opponent, it's going to be hard. And I do like that Eric Gonzalez is the longer, lengthier guy, and and he's going to need to depend on that length and that ability to keep at distance and start striking really hard, because we've seen Jim Miller just kind of walk through the storm and be able to handle a lot of different looks that his opponents give him, man. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, man. Jim Miller, to me, even though he has all this great, top control, the intangible of massive experience in the UFC, he's still a bit sloppy in the pocket when he's talking about his boxing, right? But he does have a big right hook counter shot, man. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be careful if you're Gonzalez, because Jim Miller's more of at this point of his career, that big power, small volume, right? One big shot at a time, maybe two in a row or something like that. But I do think that the big thing that we keep talking about here, just the experience and the levels, man. Jim Miller, it's like, I think that the odds makers, once again, so folks, I'm seeing a lot of value in -195 for Jim Miller. I'm surprised that this line isn't higher because, yeah, he's coming off of 2 losses in a row, but he didn't look bad in the losses. It's not like he looked terrible. And look at his competition, man. In his last 5, Clay Guida, Scott Holtzman, Roosevelt Roberts, Vince Pichel, Joe Selecki. Like, you got real deal killers out here in the UFC. And if we're talking about ERICK GONZALEZ, I say one of the toughest guys that he fought, which was the only loss in his last 5, was against Humberto Bondanai, right? And that was big stakes, AJ. I think that was for like $10,000 that they were fighting for. And Bondanai just got the better of him. And I know that name of Bondanai. I don't know where I've seen the man fight before, but he is not a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. But like I said, levels to this. I don't have too much to say other than Jim Miller, advantage on the ground. ERICK GONZALEZ, I don't want to say advantage on the feet, but I like his chances on the feet better than I like Jim Miller's chances on the feet. And I think that's going to be the one way to win. So we're going to see, does the young, experienced cat making his UFC debut come in and play spoiler and say, all right, Jim Miller, sorry, 3 losses in a row, I'm getting you towards the chopping block? Or, like we said at the beginning of this, does Jim Miller say, I'm going to go the Arlovsky approach, man. I'm just going to keep winning, keep putting these young guns in front of me. I'm going to keep winning, and you're going to have to keep me around because the man known as Jim Miller, he's 38 years old, man, a very prime age of 38. So he's still got a couple good years left in him, man. Let's not be crazy here. But, yeah, 29 years old is ERICK GONZALEZ. So it's going to be young versus old here. Who do you like here, AJ? Who wins and why?
Yeah, I like the way you said that. Jim Miller definitely has the advantage on the feet, and I wouldn't give necessarily, Jim Miller has the advantage on the ground, and I wouldn't necessarily give the advantage to ERICK GONZALEZ on the feet, but I think that's where his shot is best at. But me personally, I'm going Jim Miller, TKO submission, round 1. I think he's going to get the young gun out early, and like you said before, you got to be careful what you ask for because you just might get it, and in this form, it might be an ass whooping by Jim Miller. A10 Jim Miller. A10. Who you got, Derek, and why?
Well, listen, 18 submission wins for Jim Miller in his decorated 32 victory career, 4 knockouts, 10 decisions. And if we're talking about ERICK GONZALEZ, once again, you're a bold man. ERICK GONZALEZ has never been knocked out. He has been submitted twice, 3 losses via decision. I see a submission win coming here for Jim Miller, man. I see a very good top control and a very sneaky submission coming up in round 2 or 3. I'm going to go 3 just to, be a little cautious on here, but I'm going Jim Miller submission round 3 on here. However, it would be very impressive to see ERICK GONZALEZ go the distance on that one, man. If you look at his last 5, his only loss was a decision loss to Humberto Bondanai, man. So be interesting to see here, but very interesting matchup.